Hey folks, thank you for joining us here at Your Health. On today's program, we'd like to talk about the health benefits of getting more fiber in your diet. Oh, sure, the comedians joke about it, but the health benefits of added fiber, it's no joke. It's not a laughing matter. 9 years of extra life to those who get adequate fiber in their diet. Can you believe it? 9 years. Remarkable. We'd also like to introduce to you a source of dietary fiber that you may not be aware of. It's called glucomannan fiber. It's one of the best tolerated soluble fiber sources we have available today. Interesting stuff and something I'm sure you'll want to put to good use. But first, let's go to our news. Let's see what's happening in the health world. Taking just 5 days off from your exercise routine causes a significant decline in the health of your arteries. Researchers from the University of Missouri found that when a person decreases their activity level to less than 5,000 steps a day for 5 days, it causes abnormal function in the inner lining of the arteries, a condition doctors call endothelial dysfunction. The study also found it takes multiple days of exercising, at least 10,000 steps a day, to regain the arterial fitness loss in just 5 days of reduced activity. The U.S. Surgeon General recommends that all Americans should take at least 10,000 steps of exercise daily. The U.S. national average is 5,000 steps, and over 20% of us take no exercise at all. Related research from the University of East Anglia reported in the British Journal of Sports Medicine finds those who engage in group walks show lower blood pressure, lower resting heart rate, and total cholesterol levels. They also experience improved lung function and overall strength along with reduced body fat. Those who engage in regular group walks report groups exercise encourages participation and continued exercise. The study evaluated 42 studies to make the findings. You know, folks, I'm reminded several years ago a study was published that found 1 day of complete bed rest after a major operation, such as having your gallbladder removed, is equal to the health risk of 6 months of being a complete couch potato. The number one health problem created by inactivity after an operation, of course, is the development of blood clots. This is the main reason doctors and nurses require patients to get up and get moving after surgery, even if they don't feel like doing that. Now, our current study finds if you have developed a pattern of regular exercise and take just 5 days off, it will cause problems in your arteries that increase the risk of hypertension and blood clots, and we call this endothelial dysfunction. They also found it took several days of extra exercise just to regain what you lost during your days off. We also learned from Great Britain there are benefits to walking with a group of fellow exercisers. We tend to stick with the program better, which leads to added health benefits. Further progress in the investigation of vitamin D's role in health has been made on multiple fronts. First, research from the University of Edinburgh reported at Science Daily finds bowel cancer patients with higher levels of vitamin D are at 1/2 the risk of dying 5 years after diagnosis. Researchers evaluated 1,600 patients with colon cancer. They also found vitamin D provided the most benefits to those with stage 2 cancer when the tumor has enlarged but has not yet spread. Next, from the University of Turku, Finland, researchers find when children have low vitamin D levels, it increases their risk of early atherosclerosis 25 years later. The study evaluated over 2,000 kids ages 3 to 18, then reevaluated them at ages 30 to 45. They found the subjects with low vitamin D levels in childhood were almost twice as likely to have developed thickening of the arteries 25 years later. The study was published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology. Now, a third study published in the same journal finds maintaining deficient levels of vitamin D more than doubles the risk of developing schizophrenia. The study also found overall 65% of schizophrenics studied had deficient levels of vitamin D. Well, let's review that again. Very important. Vitamin D improves outcomes in colon cancer. Those with higher levels are at 1/2 the risk of death after 5 years. Another recent study found that overall colon cancer is on the decline except for one group, young adults. Perhaps this study gives us some insight into why. Next, kids with low vitamin D levels grow up to be young adults with early cardiovascular disease. And finally, low vitamin D levels are associated with increased risk of schizophrenia. We have reached some 200 vitamin D studies reported here at Your Health, with each new study more amazing than the last. If you are not supplementing vitamin D, please start now. There is no cheaper or easier way to improve your health status. Of course, we still need to eat healthy and to exercise regularly, but if you supplement with vitamin D with these healthy activities, you will get the most benefit for your therapeutic dollar. The approximate dosage guidelines for vitamin D are as follows. If you are a small and thin adult, your dose is about 3,000 international units daily. If you are a large person and you are overweight, your dose is about 7,000 international units daily. But the best way to guide dosage is by taking blood levels of vitamin D. Have the blood test if you can, but do not wait. Start your vitamin D now. Today on Your Health, we'd like to discuss the health benefits of adding fiber to your diet. Stay tuned to learn more. Most Americans don't get enough fiber. This is one of the reasons for America's crisis of digestive disorders. A fiber supplement can help.
That's why Bioinnovations brings you Dr. Becker's Bionutrients Glucoman and Fiber. Our special today is buy one bottle of Glucoman and Fiber at the regular price, get a second one free. That's right, buy one, get one free.
Glucoman and Fiber is a soluble fiber and easy on the system. It can improve your overall health by lowering cholesterol, stabilizing blood sugar, and even promoting weight loss.
And to make it easier, Bioinnovations offers one-stop shopping for all your vitamin and supplement needs at prices you can afford. Again, our special today is buy one bottle of Glucomannan at the regular price and get a second one free. Give us a call at 888-442-1828 or go online at bioinnovations.net. Ask about the AutoShip program for additional savings.
I'm Dr. Richard Becker for Your Health at a Glance. Are you looking for a way to lower your risk of Alzheimer's? As the prevalence of obesity and metabolic syndrome continue to increase, researchers have found a possible link between type 2 diabetes and the onset of Alzheimer's disease. In fact, type 2 diabetics are at 200% higher risk of Alzheimer's compared to people without diabetes. These metabolic changes that develop with diabetes appears to greatly increase the speed of deterioration of the brain and other related systems. Lowering your blood glucose is easier than you may think. Eat smaller meals, exercise regularly, and reduce carbohydrates in your diet, especially simple sugars. Taking steps today to control your blood glucose may protect your entire body, including your brain. For Your Health at a Glance, I'm Dr. Richard Becker.
Are you one of the 62 million Americans suffering from gastrointestinal problems? Do you struggle with other chronic conditions? That's why we offer Dr. Becker's Bionutrient Probiotics.
After years of research, we developed a revolutionary probiotic formula with GastroDefense technology. This system protects the good bacteria from stomach acid so the probiotics reach the intestines where they go to work. Additionally, we use live count technology to prolong the shelf life of the probiotics, so there's no need for refrigeration.
Dr. Becker's Bionutrient Probiotics is a powerful combination and one of the most effective formulas available today. And we offer a children's chewable formula too, both at prices you can afford. Order online at bioinnovations.net or call 888-442-1828 and ask about the AutoShip program for additional savings. Welcome back, everyone. It is fantastic to be with you today. Well, today's show is going to be great. We're going to be talking about the importance of getting enough fiber in your diet. That might be one of those things that you think, well, my health is fine. Why would I need to add fiber? I eat well. Well, you know what? Fiber is one of the main foundational important supplements that you can do to get it to be healthy. It doesn't matter if you're thin, if you're overweight, if you're healthy, semi-healthy, or maybe you're health challenged. All of us need to get enough fiber in our diet. So, Richard, you know, when I think about it, my dad used to, or my granddad, would always talk about getting his fiber, and I thought, well, that's because, Granddad, you're old. You know, you needed to get your fiber because you're old.
Yeah. Everyone needs fiber.
But little did I know, no, that is so important for all of us, from the little tots all the way to Grandma and Grandpa.
And this added fiber that we're looking for, the healthy diet, is one of the fundamental differences between our ancestral diet and the modern processed and refined diet that so many of us consume today. To get enough fiber from a processed diet, well, it's almost impossible. You're going to have to supplement. You know, it is the wise physician and patient alike. They know that good health begins and ends in a healthy intestinal tract. And anything that interferes with intestinal function is going to compromise health. Things like chronic constipation, frequent diarrhea, or dysbiosis, or yeast overgrowth, medications that compromise intestinal function. Any and all of these things can add up to long-term health compromise. And this is what happens when we do not put enough fiber into our diet. This has not always been known. Doctors and scientists did not always realize how important having a high fiber diet is. Two doctors of historical importance, Dr. Cleve, who was a Navy doctor, and Burkitt, who was a surgeon in East Africa. These were the two first doctors to write in the scientific literature about the difference between the third world diet, shall we call it, the ancestral diet, and compared to the modern diet. And they noticed a difference in disease patterns. You know, the modern world has a different set of diseases than our ancestors did just 100 years ago. They were among the first to write about this. And as time went on and the scientific evidence accumulated, we now know from a recent research project published in Archives Internal Medicine, if you meet your fiber needs on a regular basis, you'll decrease your risk of death by 22%. Each and every year you do that. 22% reduction in death risk. And overall, you will increase your lifespan by about 9 years. Let's have a note of perspective here. If you are a smoker and smoke a pack a day, every day for your, say, 55 years, 60 years of your adult life, you'll decrease your lifespan on average of 7 years. So the practice of adding fiber is healthier than the destructive effect of smoking. Now, I don't think adding fiber will take away the negatives of smoking, but I'll give you a comparison so you understand what I'm talking about. 9 extra years of life just from adding your fiber, that's an average. The normal colon function depends highly on fiber. Intestines are somewhat like a railway system, and dietary fiber carries these nutrients through the GI tract. Well, what is fiber? Let's define it. Fiber is mostly indigestible carbohydrates that carry chyme, undigested food substances, through the intestinal tract. Dietary fiber is only found in plant sources. It's not found in meat. It's not found in milk. It's not found in any other foods but plant-based foods. Prompt efficient digestion carries nutrients and boosts immunity. A long list of functions of fiber. 2 forms of fiber. Soluble fiber. This attracts water. It dissolves in water. It turns to gel during digestion. It's broken down by the intestinal bacteria into active compounds that the bacteria use and that you use. This is your soluble fiber. If you were to cut up a dozen apples and put them on the stew pot to boil, it turns into a gelatinous substance. This is the release of the soluble fiber. It absorbs water. You have an image of that now. Soluble fiber. You can find the soluble fiber in nuts and beans of all type, barley, oats, psyllium, glucomannan, fruits, vegetables. Whole foods have this soluble fiber. Next, we have insoluble fiber. It doesn't dissolve in water. This is primarily cellulose. It is a bulking and hydrating agent that's bulking and hydrating agent that speeds passage of food through the stomach intestines. It is not broken down. Soluble fiber is. Insoluble fiber does not break down. This includes cellulose, or the woody part of a plant. Okay, the stem of a plant. Now, cows, herbivores, can digest that. We can't. It is insoluble fiber to us. This can be found cellulose, dextrins, inulin, lignin, waxes, chitin. There's a whole long list of these. They're all fibers to us. 2 basic types, soluble and insoluble. A healthy diet contains both soluble and insoluble. The insoluble fiber in wheat bran in large amounts, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, herbs, a wide variety of plants have these insoluble fibers. How much fiber do we need on a daily basis? It is recommended that we get between 20 to 35 grams of pure fiber. That equals about 5 tablespoons if you were to extract it out of your foodstuff. The average American gets between 12 and 18. 20 to 35. but the average is only 12 to 18. A child, how do you know how much fiber a child should have? Take their age, add 5 to it. So a 10-year-old would have about 15 grams of fiber a day. That's the amount of fiber recommended. Now, to get that, if you're eating complete whole foods diet, no refined or processed foods, you can achieve this 20 to 35 grams a day by eating 2 to 3 servings of fruit, 3 to 5 servings of vegetables, and eating only whole grains when appropriate. You can do this, but I must confess it's hard to do because the processed foods, that's one of the first things they take out of the diet and when it's processed, is this high fiber content. Less than 10% of all Americans eat the recommended levels of fiber. Less than 10. You know, here's the problem many people face. They're convinced they need more fiber. They're on a low fiber diet. Maybe they only get 15 grams, 10 grams a day. And they bump up that fiber, and their intestinal tract is not used to that. And they spend a lot of time in the restroom. They say, oh, that fiber's too much. I can't take that. You need to introduce this fiber slowly. Let your intestinal tract adapt to it. It is absolutely in your interest to have more fiber in your diet, but don't do it all at once. Work into it slowly so you can reap the benefits and while your intestinal tract adapts. There are a few people who shouldn't add more fiber to their diet. These are typically those who've had intestinal surgeries, they have blockages, this type of thing. You've been told by your doctor not to add fiber. You want a low residue diet, but that's the small minority. All the rest of us really would benefit from more fiber in the diet. Less than 10% of all Americans get the recommended levels of fruits and vegetables and amount of fiber. Less than 5% get the amount of whole grains that are recommended. In a 2008 study quite a few years ago, 77% of Americans consume extra fiber, with the majority still missing their target amounts. Even though we're supplementing fiber, we're still not getting enough. And I think the reason for that is we're not giving fiber time to adjust. Our intestinal tracts are not given time to adjust. We go into it all at once and it's too much for us. So when you add your fiber, work up to it slowly. Let's talk quickly about the different types of foods you can add. We'll just give you a list. There's so many. All your natural whole foods are rich in fiber. Beans, any type of bean. Fruits, apples, grapes, oranges, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, they all have fiber. The vegetables, the broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots, green beans, nuts and seeds. Nuts and seeds are a tremendous source of fiber. Whole grains, for those who can have the grains, that means no white flour. It's all whole grain. High fiber, including bran, whole wheat breads, oatmeal, bulgur wheat, 100% bran products. All of these are a good source of fiber. Now, let's go to our break a little early right now, and when we return, we'll talk about some tips you can use to get more fiber into your daily dietary routine. And then we'll get into our fiber supplements. What are the best to add to your diet so you too can get your fiber need for the day? We'll be right back. Most Americans don't get enough fiber. This is one of the reasons for America's crisis of digestive disorders. A fiber supplement can help.
That's why Bioinnovations brings you Dr. Becker's Bionutrients Glucoman and Fiber. Our special today is buy one bottle of Glucoman and Fiber at the regular price, get a second one free. That's right, buy one, get one free.
Glucoman and Fiber is a soluble fiber and easy on the system. It can improve your overall health by lowering cholesterol, stabilizing blood sugar, and even promoting weight loss.
And to make it easier, Bioinnovations offers one-stop shopping for all your vitamin and supplement needs at prices you can afford. Again, our special today is buy one bottle of Glucomannan at the regular price and get a second one free. Give us a call at 888-442-1828 or go online at bioinnovations.net. Ask about the AutoShip program for additional savings.
I'm Dr. Richard Becker for Your Health at a Glance. Do you have a family history of a certain disease? Scientists are discovering that our genetic code plays a smaller role than previously believed. Only about 20% of disease is tied to our innate genetic code. So what determines the other 80%? The answer may lie in the emerging field of epigenetics. What is it? Epigenetics is a group of changing factors responsible for both how our genes are read and how they are then applied throughout the rest of the body. And this may explain why identical twins with identical genes can have different health problems. Researchers believe two of the main factors in epigenetics are nutrition and environmental exposure to toxins. So eat a healthy diet, reduce toxin exposure, and you may improve your own epigenetics. For Your Health at a Glance, I'm Dr. Richard Becker. For thousands of years, Eastern health practitioners have used mushrooms for a variety of treatments.
And recently, scientists everywhere in the world have turned to mushrooms in search of health-promoting compounds.
These are known as medicinal mushrooms. Among some of the most potent are ABM, maitake, reishi, shiitake, and cordyceps sinensis.
At Bioinnovations, we've made available 4 of the most powerful mushrooms in one easy-to-use formula. We call it the Mushroom Complex. We also offer the amazing mushroom Cordyceps sinensis in a standalone formula.
Cordyceps helps boost energy, an amazing discovery now used in both Eastern and Western medicine. So take advantage of thousands of years of health knowledge.
Give us a call at 888-442-1828 or go online at bioinnovations.net. Check out the AutoShip program for additional savings. We're back, everyone, talking about the importance of getting enough fiber in your diet today. So, Richard, talking about the diet, let's go into some ways that we can increase our fiber naturally.
Well, you know, America loves their breakfast cereals.
Right.
And one of the ways of increasing your fiber intake is to read labels on cereal packages. Look for foods, cereals that contain 5 grams or more of fiber per serving. That would be considered a high fiber. The low fiber, 2 gram or less, not so good. You're going to have to scramble with the other meals to meet up your fiber needs.
That's a fantastic, fantastic point, Richard. I really want you to drive that one home because we're all pretty much programmed to look for the protein.
Yes.
We're always concerned with what's the protein content, what's the sugar content.
Yes. Well,
but now we need to look at the fiber content.
Your protein-rich foods are your low-fiber foods. Low to apps, you know, meat has no fiber in it.
That's
Eggs have no fiber in it. So fish, no fiber really at all. And so you're looking, your other bulking agents are your low protein foods, but they're really the health providing foods full of antioxidants.
Okay.
You could add a little wheat germ or wheat bran to your cereals. You can add the wheat fiber, wheat germ to casseroles and salads or cooked vegetables. Look for whole grain breads with more than 2 grams of fiber per serving of the bread. Read labels. You know, most of America allows the bakery to cook their breads and cereals today, and that's fine. Just look for the healthy stuff. And one of the earmarks of a healthy food is higher in fiber. Try whole grain pastas. You know, everyone loves the flavor of white flour pasta, of course. Everybody likes that. But you know, you can adapt and get used to whole grain pastas with more fiber in it, and it's really quite good if you're allowed to have wheat. You know, many of us are avoiding the gluten, and that's fine too. But you can even get gluten-free pastas today. Look for the high fiber ones. Snack on carrots and celery, and add more raw vegetables to your salad blends. It's a great way to add more fiber to your diet. Eat a little fruit every day, good and soluble fiber too, and the fruits are known for their soluble fiber. Beans, add beans to your salad. Add beans and your body adapts to this again. Take it a little at a time and work your way up, because the health benefits of fiber are remarkable. Let's go into some of this. What happens to us when we get enough fiber in our diet? 22% lower risk of death of all causes, up to 59% lower risk of cardiovascular disease. Fiber essentially pulls cholesterol and fat out of your system. It absorbs it and pulls it out. It's tremendous for weight control and prevention of cardiovascular disease. Adds up to 9 years of life. That's on average. Promotes regularity. Prevents constipation, increases bulk, and stimulates the smooth muscle of the intestine. When you stretch the intestine, it responds by propelling chyme down where you want it to go to help you with regularity. Increases dietary satisfaction. When you stretch the intestinal walls, you feel full. Everybody's aware of this. And you create this effect of fullness at a lower caloric intake. that ends in weight loss. That's helpful. Full with less calories, maintains ideal weight easier, stretches the intestine tract, feels satisfied with fewer calories, reduces postprandial hyperglycemia. Diabetics and pre-diabetics, low-fiber foods, the glucose and starch and sugar content of low-fiber foods are absorbed very quickly. And this will raise your blood sugar. This is what we're trying to avoid in the control of diabetes. High-fiber foods digest slowly. The glucose molecules are released slowly. Excuse me. This helps to control your blood glucose levels. If you're having trouble maintaining your blood glucose diabetes, add fiber to your diet. This is a well-established, well-studied way of helping to maintain low normal blood glucose levels. It improves the secretion of digestive enzymes. You know, many of us feel, I'm just not digesting properly. I think I need enzymes. And maybe you do, but start with some fiber because chances are you're low in fiber. And what happens, the stretch of the intestinal tract, it sends a signal to the pancreas and to the liver, and it promotes the release of digestive components. The digestive enzymes increase when a high-fiber diet. That promotes healthy digestion, and it promotes normal bowel flora. This is one of the things that helps people get over the yeast syndrome, is proper digestion. Also, the fiber binds up the yeast organisms and pulls them out of the system. A lot of benefits here. It absorbs toxins produced by metabolism and bacteria, acts as a sponge. People who get enough fiber in their diet have lower rates of kidney stones, binding up the toxins that end up in stones. Reduces coronary artery disease risk. It reduces atherosclerosis, reduces cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, triglycerides, and raising HDL, the protective one. It pulls the healthy fats out of the system. Influences bile production and reduces gallstone risk by preventing the reabsorption of cholesterol into the system. A low-fiber diet, our bodies reabsorb cholesterol and fats, and it gets processed over and over again. This basically is what ends up in gallstones. High-fiber diets reduce the incidence of gallstones. This is one of the differences in the ancestral diet and the modern processed diet. Gallbladder removal due to stones is the #1 abdominal surgery in America. We don't get enough fiber and see what happens to us. This is the process. Maybe you've had your gallbladder removed, but you still suffer symptoms as though you still had that bad gallbladder. Having more fiber helps to bind the bile so it doesn't reflux up into your upper intestinal tract and cause you irritability. Adding some fiber slowly but surely will help you feel better after a cholecystectomy. It's one of my tricks in practice. Add a little probiotic to that, a little noni to promote peristalsis, you're going to start feeling better. Makes a difference. What else? Fiber calms inflammation, reduces the risk of blood clots. It increases T helper cells and antibodies. It improves leukocyte function and lymphatic movement. Have trouble with varicose veins? Who would think that adding fiber to your diet will improve the inflammation in your varicose veins? It does. It's been studied and proven many, many times. Improves bone mass, reduces osteoporosis by increasing calcium absorption, lowers blood pressure, especially the salt-sensitive blood pressure that so many have today with diuretics. Don't forget your vitamin D, that plays a role there as well. Lowers the risk of breast cancer. High fiber consumption linked to 11% reduced risk of breast cancer, partly due to toxins, influence on the hormonal systems, reduced weight, all of it adds up to reduced breast cancer. Over 5 years, every 10-gram increase in soluble fiber per day tied to a 3.7 decrease in visceral fat. If you make a habit, a pattern of eating a high-fiber diet, over time, thinness becomes much easier than you ever thought it could be. This takes time. It doesn't just peel off in a week or two, but over time, the patterns, the decrease in appetite, the lowering of the cholesterol, and the sense of satisfaction from your diet all improves, leading to weight loss. So those who consume a high-fiber diet, what are their benefits? Less obesity, less heartburn. These are all from studies, every one of them. Less gout, and that is a painful condition. Fewer kidney stones, fewer gallstones. Heart disease is reduced, stroke is reduced, hypertension reduced, #1 killers, and we can influence this through high fiber. less trouble with varicose veins, less inflammation, fewer blood clots, fewer deep vein thrombosis and vascular disease, fewer pulmonary embolisms, lower incidence of appendicitis, who knew, diverticulosis and diverticulitis, fewer hemorrhoids, fewer colon polyps, less colon cancer, less inflammatory bowel disease, fewer cavities, even cavities, less autoimmune disease, less pernicious anemia, multiple sclerosis, thyroid disease, and many, many, many more diseases just from adding more fiber over time. When we return from this break, let's talk about supplemental fiber. We'll be right back. Most Americans don't get enough fiber. This is one of the reasons for America's crisis of digestive disorders. A fiber supplement can help.
That's why Bioinnovations brings you Dr. Becker's Bionutrients Glucoman and Fiber. Our special today is buy one bottle of Glucoman and Fiber at the regular price, get a second one free. That's right, buy one, get one free.
Glucoman and Fiber is a soluble fiber and easy on the system. It can improve your overall health by lowering cholesterol, stabilizing blood sugar, and even promoting weight loss.
And to make it easier, Bioinnovations offers one-stop shopping for all your vitamin and supplement needs at prices you can afford. Again, our special today is buy one bottle of Glucomannan at the regular price and get a second one free. Give us a call at 888-442-1828 or go online at bioinnovations.net. Ask about the AutoShip program for additional savings.
I'm Dr. Richard Becker for Your Health at a Glance. High cholesterol raises your risk for cardiovascular disease, but it's just one risk factor among many. And the need to lower your cholesterol can be over-exaggerated. Everywhere in the media we see advertisements for cholesterol-lowering prescription drugs. It's a big business. Now, cardiovascular disease kills more Americans than any other disease, so we need to pay attention to all the risk factors for heart disease. Here's a prevention strategy. Besides lowering your cholesterol, treat high blood pressure. Stop all tobacco, manage diabetes, exercise regularly to stay fit, avoid sugar, eat fish and fresh fruits and vegetables. Take your daily vitamin and use omega-3 oils. Address all your risk factors, not just your cholesterol. For Your Health at a Glance, I'm Dr. Richard Becker. Hello, I'm Dr. Richard Becker.
And I'm Cindy Becker.
As a physician and cancer survivor, it is clear to me that standard medical therapies are not enough. We need more.
That's why we created our television program, to give you natural health solutions that really can improve your life.
And now we're offering another way to learn about your health by subscribing to our new monthly newsletter.
Every month you'll receive critical information about preventing disease, your diet, healthy recipes, holistic therapies, and alternatives to prescription pills. Each edition addresses personal issues that may keep you from getting well.
Each month I share with you the latest research found in scientific journals about diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, and other common problems.
With your new 12-month subscription, you'll get 3 additional months free. Become a subscriber today by calling 888-442-1828 or order online at bioinnovations.net for the best prices of the year. Welcome back, everyone. If you're just joining us, we're having a great discussion today on the importance of getting enough fiber in our diets. And to help you get enough fiber, we have a great special for you. We've got a buy one, get one free on Dr. Becker's Bionutrients Glucomannan Fiber. That's where you buy one bottle at the regular price, then you're going to get a second bottle free. And that's today only, so don't miss out. Well, in a few minutes, we're going to try to go to the phones and take a call from one of you, and we'll get to talk with you. So if you haven't tried, pick up that phone and dial in. I want to talk to you. The number's 800-635-2673. It works really good to put that on speed dial so you can reach Dr. Becker during the show. Well, Richard, There's so much to cover on fiber. This is really important, and I think we've learned a lot since Granddad's days.
Oh, I think we have. We've learned that we need more fiber.
That's right.
We need to make a conscious effort to get more. Of course, start it slowly so that you're not put off from the use of fiber. First, let's talk about the insoluble fibers. An example of this would be bran, wheat bran. This is very common. Wheat bran cereal, it's very high in fiber. It's mostly insoluble fiber. Another one is psyllium. Psyllium contains soluble and insoluble fiber. The problem with the insoluble fibers, they tend to be poorly tolerated. Many people find they become gassy, and the intestinal tract is just too much for them. It can be problematic for those with irritable bowel syndrome or those with gluten sensitivity. So in comes the soluble fibers. If you analyze the health benefits of the two fibers, the majority of the benefits come from the soluble fibers. And since the soluble fibers are better tolerated, that's where most people should start their supplemental program, because they'll end up getting more benefit and they tolerate it better. So soluble fibers are much better tolerated. A common source of soluble fiber is fruit pectin. And if you look on commercial jams and jellies, you'll see the fruit, like blackberries, fruit pectin, and sugar. And sometimes the sugar is the very first ingredient, right? You know how commercial jams are. So that's not really a good way to supplement your pectin or soluble fiber, because you're really supplementing sugar when you do that. Now, the whole fruit in its natural state is a good source, but we're talking about supplemental fibers. So you can get plain pectin, fruit pectin, citrus and apple. You can get that as a fiber additive. But this brings us to glucomannan. Glucomannan is a soluble fiber. It's a remarkable fiber in that it is extremely well tolerated. It's found from the konjac root, or juryo, in Chinese. It has been used in the Chinese culture for over 2,000 years. That gives you a very good safety profile. It is in the family of the yam. Think of it as a cousin to the yam or sweet potato. Now, the unique thing about glucomannan is that it can absorb 50 times its weight in water. Isn't this something? So it's something that weighs a gram. 1 gram of glucomannan would absorb 50 grams or 50 cc's of water. This makes a true slurry. This is where you're getting the benefit from your soluble fibers. It can be used as a bulk forming laxative agent, promoting regularity, or as a laxative, either one. And we've done enough studies now on glucomannan that we know glucomannan provides similar benefits as other sources of soluble fiber. For example, a 16-week double-blind study with 200 patients, it resulted in 8.3 pounds of weight loss more than those who took placebo. A second study, 3.6 grams of daily glucomannan added up to a weight loss over 8 weeks of 5.5 pounds. Now, there are companies that advertise glucomannan products with a trade name. They never say it's glucomannan. They never say it's a fiber agent. All they say is, this is the next best diet pill that'll help you to lose weight. And they can do that because the research shows glucomannan promotes weight loss. Slow but steady weight loss as long as you take this, and you do a sensible diet and you get your exercise. And so I think that's a little disingenuous. Let's have full disclosure over the supplements we're taking. So I recommend to people, if a supplement doesn't tell you what's in it, don't take it. We need to know what we're taking, right? Well, glucomannan helps people lose weight. It's also been shown to help overweight kids lose weight. It lowers cholesterol by about 10% and triglycerides by about 20%. It also helps to lower blood pressure. That's been studied and confirmed. In human studies, it lowers cancer-causing compounds in the colon. This is our lower rates of intestinal cancers. Glucomannan provides that as well. It increases the good bacteria in the intestinal tract, the bifidobacterium and lactobacillus. In diabetes, it lowers cholesterol, reduces insulin resistance, it lowers fasting blood glucose levels. All of these benefits for the diabetic. proven to improve childhood constipation. We don't have time to get into that right now, but oftentimes as kids go off to school, they go through a phase of constipation. It's been shown to help children with that. Combining inositol with glucomannan improves insulin, glucose, and hormonal levels in polycystic ovarian syndrome. Inositol with glucomannan helps PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Isn't that amazing? Lab animals fed a no-fiber diet, but glucomannan added showed to decrease the toxic elements that lead to the colon cancers and the diseases associated with the low-fiber diet. So, no-fiber food, add just the glucomannan, all those parameters that lead to disease, the laboratory evidence of it decline. This proves that glucomannan is an acceptable and well-tolerated source of fiber that we can use as a supplementation. Glucomannan protects sheep and rabbits from aflatoxin. You know, we see that too. So it's helpful in reducing toxin exposure. People with esophageal strictures or obstructions should not take it. Let me explain real quickly. Glucomannan, soluble fiber, absorbs 50 times its weight in water. If you have a restriction in your esophagus and the capsule gets caught in your esophagus, it's going to eventually dissolve and begin to absorb all that water, and it's going to expand. So if you have great difficulty in swallowing something, you have esophageal strictures, you really shouldn't take any form of soluble fiber like that. I hope that's real clear. The rest of us should take soluble fiber as a dietary supplement. Let's go to our break. We'll return, and maybe I think we can get a call in now. We'll be right back.
Do you believe that nature holds the answer to your health needs? Are you looking for a supplement that's simple and pure, yet really works?
If you're looking for nature's answer to better health, look to Aloha Noni Juice. It's pure and fresh, just like nature intended. Aloha Noni Juice is brought to you direct from the islands of Polynesia.
Aloha Noni Juice is 100% pure with no added sugar or sweet fruit fillers. It's the perfect addition to your low-sugar diet.
Aloha Noni Juice drinkers will tell you their vitality, energy, and sense of well-being have improved, along with relief from many painful conditions. Made by nature, proven by science, Aloha Noni Juice contains only nature's best.
And now you can enjoy the benefits of our new 100% certified organic Noni Juice. Order online or call 888-442-1828 and let BioInnovations assist you in making the right choices to better health. Ask about the AutoShip program for additional savings. Here is our hope for you today. I'm Cindy Becker. When we struggle with disease and painful health conditions, we can become overwhelmed with negative thoughts. We may even develop depression. The Apostle Paul offered guidelines to help us preserve a positive attitude during times of trouble. He wrote in Philippians 4, verse 8, "Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things." Thinking positive thoughts is the first step toward overcoming worry, even depression. Proverbs 17, verse 22 reminds us, "A cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones." Remember these words of wisdom as you face your health challenges. I'm Cindy Becker. This is our hope for you today.
Most Americans don't get enough fiber. This is one of the reasons for America's crisis of digestive disorders. A fiber supplement can help.
That's why BioInnovations brings you Dr. Becker's Bionutrients Glucomannan Fiber. Our special today is buy one bottle of Glucomannan Fiber at the regular price, get a second one free. That's right, buy one, get one free.
Glucomannan fiber is a soluble fiber and easy on the system. It can improve your overall health by lowering cholesterol, stabilizing blood sugar, and even promoting weight loss.
And to make it easier, BioInnovations offers one-stop shopping for all your vitamin and supplement needs at prices you can afford. Again, our special today is buy one bottle of Glucomannan at the regular price and get a second one free. Give us a call at 888-442-1828 or go online at bioinnovations.net. Ask about the AutoShip program for additional savings. We're back, everyone. Just a quick reminder about that special today. The Glucomannan Fiber is buy one, get one free. We buy one bottle at the full price. You get a second bottle free. Fantastic special. Well, Richard, let's talk a little bit about how you dose supplemental fiber.
Well, the Glucomannan, the dose is anywhere from 2 to 8 capsules a day. That gives you about 1 gram to 4.5 grams approximately. And again, I would start with 1 or 2 a day, slowly work up 3, 4, 5. When you become regular and you feel good, and you'll know it when you're at the right spot, then that would be your maintenance dose. And again, I want to mention that if you tend to get capsules stuck in your throat, not just a person who, I have a hard time swallowing pills. It's, I don't like swallowing pills. This is somebody who truly has a stricture in their esophagus that's a narrowing. We wouldn't want to put a fiber pill there that would absorb all this water and cause an obstruction to you. Now, it is acceptable to open. Yes, it is acceptable to open the capsule, put it in water, and let it absorb all that water. You create a bit of a slurry. That can be passed very easily. This is a common way to take soluble fiber. It's been done that way for many, many years, and it's okay. But you'd want to allow that water and the glucomannan to fully interact and create that slurry. It's not something you just put in and then swallow real quick. You want to let it sit for a minute. Let it absorb that water, and it will thicken, and you can swallow that. That's just fine. Start with 1 or 2 capsules, work up to 4 or 5, some people all the way up to 8. I also want to mention that the glucomannan also contains fructooligosaccharides, or FOS. This is a fiber source for intestinal bacteria. They digest this FOS into byproducts that we need that help promote the intestinal bacteria's health and our health. So we add that right in there. You don't have to seek that out on its own. So there you have it, glucomannan, well-tolerated, soluble fiber.
That's great. Well, yeah. Richard, I see we have a caller on the line. Would you
wonderful.
like to go to the phones?
I do. I would love to do that.
All right. Let's go to North Carolina and welcome Sheila. Hi there, Sheila.
Hi.
Hi, Sheila. How are you today?
All right. Thank you so much. You have been such a blessing over the last 7 months. That's the only time I had watched you. I wish I would have watched you sooner. Would have maybe took care of my health issues. But your vitamin D really had helped me, because the last time I went to the doctor, I did have him test me because I had shrunk 3 inches.
Oh, my goodness, Sheila. 3 inches. That's dramatic reduction.
Yeah, and I'm already short. I was only 5'1", so.
Oh my, okay.
And so I had him test my vitamin D level because of your show.
Uh-huh.
And he said I needed 10,000 milligrams a day.
Wow, you were really low, weren't you?
Yes. And I had been going in 2013, I had 2 surgeries. I had a gallbladder and a bladder surgery. And then after the surgery, I have just put on weight, and I've gained like 35, 40 pounds. And
why do you suppose you gained all this weight?
I kept having allergies, and I went back and forth to the doctor for over a year. My father said, "What's wrong with you? You always got a cough." So I had a cough constantly, and I said, "Well, I'm going to the doctor. He's giving me steroid shots and allergy pills and antibiotics." So I was on them off and on for over a year almost, and I even went to a specialist about my throat to see if it was cancer or what, you know. And they scanned it. I had a fat tissue in my neck, but no cancer or nothing.
Did they diagnose, confirm allergies?
Yes, and bronchitis a lot.
Did they ever offer to put you on allergy injections, the desensitization immunotherapy? It was just steroids.
They would give me 2 shots every time I go. One was steroids and one was for the allergies. And then they would give me allergy pills and antibiotics, because I would end up getting bronchitis. And
so none of this really worked, did it? Are you still suffering with that?
I still have the cough.
Okay.
I still have the cough.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You're profoundly vitamin D deficient. You went through menopausal change. I'm just presuming, because these are classic symptoms of menopause, what you've described to me: loss of stature, weight gain, gallbladder problems, bladder suspension. This is, you know, the textbook on the complications of low hormone levels and the effect of menopause in women. You also have a heightened risk for cardiovascular disease. Has anybody told you that, dear? No?
No, but my
well,
father
keep that in mind.
had a heart attack. My father had a heart attack.
Yeah. Well, women's risk of heart disease doubles when they hit menopause. And now we have elevated cholesterol. We're still struggling with weight gain and allergies. We've been through too many, and steroids wash out the vitamin D. Tell you what, Sheila, I have the picture. Let's go to our break, and when I return, let's give you a plan to help to counteract these forces, because we can regain health. I hear the spark of health in your voice. I think you still have a lot to work with. You're a strong person. We just got to put you on the right path. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Most Americans don't get enough fiber. This is one of the reasons for America's crisis of digestive disorders. A fiber supplement can help.
That's why BioInnovations brings you Dr. Becker's Bionutrients Glucoman and Fiber. Our special today is buy one bottle of Glucoman and Fiber at the regular price, get a second one free. That's right, buy one, get one free.
Glucoman and Fiber is a soluble fiber and easy on the system. It can improve your overall health by lowering cholesterol, stabilizing blood sugar, and even promoting weight loss.
And to make it easier, BioInnovations offers one-stop shopping for all your vitamin and supplement needs at prices you can afford. Again, our special today is buy one bottle of Glucomannan at the regular price and get a second one free. Give us a call at 888-442-1828 or go online at bioinnovations.net. Ask about the AutoShip program for additional savings.
I'm Dr. Richard Becker for Your Health at a Glance. More and more people suffer from asthma. One cause is obvious. The world is a polluted place, and the air we breathe is not always healthy. But other causes of asthma aren't as obvious. Recent research connects a poor quality, high sugar diet and the frequent use of antibiotics to higher rates of asthma and cases of asthma that are tougher to treat. A fast food diet does not meet our nutritional needs. Plus, the indiscriminate use of antibiotics can seriously disturb the delicate balance of healthy microbes in our intestinal tract. So switch to a garden fresh diet that calms and prevents asthma. Eat fruit-like veggies such as tomatoes, cucumbers, and eggplant. Eat yogurt, ginger, turmeric, and take fish oil. Nature holds the answer, but it's up to us to make healthy choices. For Your Health at a Glance, I'm Dr. Richard Becker. Can you lower your risk of disease? The answer is yes. One way is by including fruit in your diet. Fruit contains valuable nutrients that can reduce the risk of heart disease, stroke, and even some cancers.
We've searched the world and found 4 fruits we believe are among the best. Noni from Polynesia, acai from the Amazon, and 2 new ones, goji and mangosteen.
These 4 juices each have amazing properties that make them great additions to your nutritional plan. If you're a diabetic or have chronic pain, these juices will help you feel better and have more energy. Plus, they help with digestion.
Now you can experience the health-promoting benefits of all 4 in one convenient package we call the Fruits of the World 4-Pack. And remember, it's 50% off by the case. Give us a call at 888-442-1828 or go online at bioinnovations.net. Your Health is brought to you by BioInnovations, trusted products for your health and well-being.
We're back. We've been talking with Sheila from North Carolina. She's had trouble with allergies, weight gain, gallbladder problems. The allergies were treated with steroids and allergy therapies, but we've got weight gain. And all this is occurring in the transitional years around menopause. That's hard enough for a woman those years. To add these problems to it, it can be really tough. But Sheila has that sound in her voice that she's willing to keep trying. You know, I am not anti-medicine, folks. I want to make this really clear. I don't want anybody to misunderstand me. Steroids play a role in the doctor's toolkit. They're powerful medicines. They can save lives, but they're so powerful, the side effects can be just horrendous in some people. We use them because when a person gets a shot of steroid, they usually feel great for a couple, 3 days. There's a euphoria feeling. It's a sense, I'm on my game. I feel better than I have in months. And that promotes its use. And the allergies calm down, but these steroids are often long-acting. In other words, the injection stays in there for weeks to months. The epidural steroid injection can stay in the spine area for 6 months or longer. I've seen it happen. I've seen it. And so this steroid effect adds up in many people to the initiation of diabetes and weight gain. It can start cataract formation, and it greatly accelerates bone loss. Further, steroids wash out vitamin D. One study showed if a child has had a steroid within the last month, they were 1,800% more likely to be vitamin D deficient. Sheila, there's no wonder you're vitamin D deficient. I'm sure this happens in adults just like it does children. Maybe not to the same extent, but it does. It does. Steroids wash out vitamin D. So we can try to correct all these problems, Sheila, but until your vitamin D is in place, none of it will stick. Because the allergy, the bone loss, all of this, it's all a result of being terribly low, tragically low in vitamin D. I'm glad your doctor tested. I'm glad your levels, you're taking 10,000 a day. You're a small person. You probably won't need to stay on 10,000 for the rest of your life. It will probably be closer to 4,000 a day. But base your vitamin D dose on blood tests. You want your blood level to be around 50 nanograms per deciliter. And check it again. Because you can get too much vitamin D, you can get too much of a good thing. Next is magnesium. Every 100 milligrams of magnesium will increase your bone mineral content by 1%. So if we take 500, 700 milligrams a day over time, you can regain some of this bone mass. That's the misnomer. They're not telling you about nutrients. You know, they tell you osteoporosis, it's irreplaceable. You can't get back that bone. That's not true. Magnesium with vitamin D and a good calcium will help you do that. It's really quite amazing. For the allergies, I can't give you this because I don't have it, but get some bee pollen from your local health food store, local bee pollen, put the granules, 1/2 teaspoon under the tongue every day. Do this every day. It is amazing what it does for allergies. I'm going to send you some royal jelly. Swallow that pill. It gives you a systemic effect in controlling these allergies. I want to send you fish oil. We're going to treat yeast because you have a yeast problem. Don't have time to go into it. Fish oil, probiotic, olive leaf, and oil of oregano. Those two agents will help control your yeast. Glucoman and fiber. We've been talking about fiber. You could be a poster child for a low-fiber diet. We want to get that fiber up, get your cholesterol down. Tocotrienol. Consider this form of vitamin E before the statin drugs. Tocotrienol, 50 milligrams a day, will lower cholesterol as good as anything you'll ever find anywhere. It's amazing what it can do. I want to send you Active Adult Multiple Vitamin and Mineral, so your complete nutrition. Most people don't like the taste to start, but they love the strength and energy it gives, and they adjust to the taste. Always with food and water, and of course, Foundations for Healing will be coming your way as a guidepost. There's a complete chapter on how to deal with allergy problems, hormonal issues, and menopause. It'll help you get through this. Hang tight. Your care package is on its way. Fundamental topic today. Fiber, its importance, and Sheila is a good example of conditions that are further promoted in low-fiber diets. Thank you for your attention. Hope to see you tomorrow, folks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Donald and Susan just paid off nearly $25,000 in credit card debt. How? They called Consolidated Credit, and with their debt management program, they cut their payments almost in half and worked with their creditors to reduce their average interest rate to around 5% so they could pay off all their debt faster. Think about it. When was the last time you were so happy you danced like this? You can get out of debt faster and start celebrating. In fact, for the past 30 years, we've helped hundreds of thousands of people who were struggling with debt. That's right, we're celebrating 30 years of helping people dance the debt-free dance because our program works. Call 800-481-8065 for a free consultation. 800-481-8065. Call Consolidated Credit today. That's 800-481-8065.
You may want to attend college,
but you have a full-time job and kids that need your